I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax.
On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Despite Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson voting yes, he did not mince words ahead of the vote, calling the bill, quote, deceitful and dishonest, arguing it would not sufficiently protect victims of Epstein's crimes.
This legislation that will pass today is flawed and it must be amended. So now we rely upon our partners in the other chamber to get that done.
That chamber is the Senate, where Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer urged members to take up a vote as early as today. Survivors agreed, issuing a message to President Donald Trump Tuesday morning.
I am traumatized. I am not stupid. You have put us through so much stress, the lockdowns, the halt of these procedures that were supposed to have happened 50 days ago.
A reference to Arizona Democratic Representative Adelita Grijalva, who waited 50 days before she was officially sworn in. She was the decisive 218th member in support of the discharge petition to force a House vote on the release of the Epstein case files.
The survivors are the ones who want this bill. And of course it protects the victims because we worked with the survivors in drafting the bill.
President Trump said he'll sign the bill if Congress passes it, even though to this day he calls the issue a, quote, Democratic hoax. I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
Yeah, Dee, tonight we really saw a rare moment here on Capitol Hill where the wheels of government moved quite swiftly. The bill now heading to the president's desk. If and when signed, that law would force the Justice Department to publicly release its files on the late convicted sex offender. Just hours after the House vote, senators agreed to approve it unanimously, skipping a formal roll call.
Now we can move on from the issue. The president will sign the bill, and presumably the documents will be released, and the American people can make up their minds.
We have to make sure that all of the documents are released, that there are no games. We know there's a corrupt Justice Department. We know that Bondi and Kash Patel do just what the president asks and wants.
For survivors of Epstein's abuse, passage of this bill was a watershed moment, really, in a years-long fight searching for accountability.
We have not been heard for so long, and I think the power of being heard and being recognized and being validated is incredibly healing.
Live look over the White House there tonight. No official word directly on the bill signing by President Trump at this hour. Now it forces the release of all files, as mentioned, within 30 days here, while allowing the DOJ to redact information about victims or any continuing investigations.
528 lawmakers in the House and Senate voted to release the Epstein documents after months of back and forth. The vote was nearly unanimous in both chambers. The only vote against coming from Louisiana Representative Clay Higgins. When asked why, he said it was for privacy concerns. Taking to X today, the congressman wrote, we've got it pulled up right here, the bill abandons 250 years, he says, of criminal justice procedure in America, adding there were a release of the documents on this scale stands to harm thousands of innocent people, including witnesses.
I am traumatized. I am not stupid. And to the President of the United States of America, who is not here today, I want to send a clear message to you. I do understand that your position has changed on the Epstein files, and I'm grateful that you have pledged to sign this bill. I can't help to be skeptical of what the agenda is.
My sister is not a political tool for you to use. And we keep getting asked this. What does justice mean, you ask? It starts with acknowledgement.
This was me at 14 years old. I was a child. I was in 9th grade. I was hopeful for life and what the future had held for me. He stole a lot from me.
I have a 14-year-old daughter myself, the same age I was. And when I look at her, I see the little girl I used to be. The one that no one protected. My greatest fear in this entire world is history repeating itself.
Also developing this morning, President Trump calling on Americans not to lose focus as he says Democrats are using the Epstein case as a big distraction. Trump is expected to sign the Epstein measure approved by both the House and Senate yesterday. In a post online, he wrote, "I don't want Republicans to take their eyes off all of the victories that we've had, having created the hottest country anywhere in the world." The bill will order the Justice Department to release all unclassified materials related to Epstein and co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell that is not protected by the courts. Already tens of thousands of pages of documents have been released, so it's unclear if there will be any new information.
As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats. He gave me none, zero, no money to me. But he gave money to Democrats. And people are wise to your hoax.
We're also monitoring the fallout for a Democratic Congressmember after records showed her communications with Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing. A House vote to censure Virgin Islands delegate Stacey Plaskett failed by just 3 Republican votes last night. Lawmakers brought the resolution after Plaskett admitted she was texting with Epstein during the 2019 Michael Cohen hearing and that Epstein coached her on questions to ask.
Those documents show that Delegate Stacey Plaskett, a sitting member of Congress, coordinated her questioning during an official oversight hearing with a man who is a convicted sex offender, a man whose crimes against minors shocked this entire nation. Let me be clear, this was just not casual contact. There were deliberate communications, and they shaped her official line of questioning in a congressional hearing.
3 Republicans voted with Democrats. Congressman Lance Gooden from Texas, Nebraska's Don Bacon, and Dave Joyce from Ohio. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer has requested all of Epstein's banking documents while he was a resident in the U.S. Virgin Islands from the Attorney General there.
Do you have concerns, Congressman, that the Justice Department's investigations that he's ordered into the Democrats who were named in these emails last week could be used as a justification for not releasing everything that the DOJ has?
Well, first of all, what's going to happen next? The legislation gives the executive branch only 30 days to produce these files. And if they redact anything, they've got 15 days to explain and justify any redactions. So we drafted this legislation so that if it did pass, things would be on a fast track. And it is true that if they start investigations in one sort of silo of area of these Epstein files, they could block or delay. It won't delay it forever, but they could delay releasing those files there. But here's the thing, there are 1,000 victims and there are so many perpetrators. They can't open enough cases to block all of the Epstein files and to protect all of these perpetrators. So even if they do these, what seem to be partisan investigations, that's another thing that bothers me about the announcement the president made is he named Democrats and things that he was going to investigate. These survivors are not partisan. They don't belong to one party, and the perpetrators aren't either. And so this shouldn't be about political divide. So I hope that that was sort of a bluff, and I hope that the DOJ will release all the files. But even if they start investigations, they don't have enough investigators to block all the Epstein files. The Speaker has promised to be a rubber stamp for the President, and in doing so has atrophied the powers of the legislative branch. I think this is an overdue moment. The Speaker was drugged to it kicking and screaming, but here we are, and it's not necessarily a rebalancing of the branches of government, but a rebalancing of the people against the executive branch or against the people who've controlled Congress. The people's voice is spoken, and the survivors have been compelling. If we can't fix this problem, which all the people want us to fix, I don't think we could fix any problems. If he had real concerns, he could have introduced his own legislation. Look, the reason they're in there debating this is we drug them kicking and screaming into it. They hated it. They've tried to stop it the whole time.
It fails to fully protect victim privacy. It could create new categories of victims. It potentially jeopardizes grand jury secrecy. It fails to prohibit release of child sexual abuse materials that are not appropriately defined in the legislation. It jeopardizes future federal investigations, and we have national security concerns regarding classified information. We need to say clearly for the record, as the Speaker of the House, I'm saying to you, this legislation that will pass today is flawed and it must be amended. The question is, why didn't we amend it here before we passed it? Because the authors won't allow it. Because under the rules of the House, under a discharge petition, they have to agree to consent for the legislation to be amended, and they're not doing that. So now we rely upon our partners in the other chamber to get that done.
I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate receives H.R. 4405, the Epstein Files Transparency Act from the House, the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration, the bill be considered read 3 times and passed with no intervening action or debate, and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there an objection? Without objection, so ordered.
The Senate has now passed the Epstein bill as soon as it comes over from the House.
They've taken a text exchange which shows no participation, no assistance, no involvement in any illegal activity, and weaponized it for political theater. Because that's what this is. This has been reviewed by federal courts. Any charges, victims who initially had a case against me dismissed it on their own without prejudice. You don't want to talk about what is really happening here. Your attacks on working families, your protection of powerful predators and corporate criminals. You want to talk about texting felons? How often do you text President Donald J. Trump? That's the individual we should be concerned about.
This resolution, this effort to censure Delegate Plaskett, to rip away her membership on the Intel Committee, is nothing more than a political stunt by a desperate, failed candidate for governor, trying to pander to the people back in South Carolina. Nothing more than that. You want to make the statement about who's brought disgrace to the House? The actions of this House Republican majority have brought disgrace to the House of Representatives from day one of this presidency. The actions that you continue to engage in will have consequences. Consequences today, consequences tomorrow, consequences next week, consequences next year, and certainly consequences when the American people throw this House Republican majority out in the aftermath of the election next November. Be very careful about the extreme actions that you continue to engage in.
The House has now spoken in an overwhelming fashion, and Senate Republicans must step up. Because the public is fed up with waiting around to get to the bottom of the Epstein files. The Senate should move without delay to pass it unamended and send it on to the President's desk to be signed into law. We should pass this bill as soon as possible, as written, and without a hint of delay. We have to make sure that all of the documents are released, that there are no games, that we know there's a corrupt Justice Department. We know that Bondi and Kash Patel do just what the president asks and wants. And we Democrats, I just had a meeting of 10 of my colleagues, are going to do everything we can to make sure all of it comes to light, and they don't hide evidence against anyone who might be incriminated by these documents.